Have you ever wondered how quickly a perfect world can crumble? How one moment everything feels like a dream, and in the next, that dream becomes dust. Cinderella's story doesn't begin with magic or glass slippers. It begins with love. It begins with light. She was once a little girl wrapped in warmth, a mother who sang lullabies under candlelight, a father who kissed her forehead each morning with a smile that said, "You are my everything." She danced barefoot in the garden, spoke to birds like they were friends, and wore flower crowns woven by her own hands. But life, as it often does, changed. First, her mother fell ill. Cinderella was too young to understand the silence that followed, or why her father would pause and stare out windows with tearful eyes. Time passed. Her father remarried, a woman with eyes like ice, and two daughters who smiled, but never truly at her. Still, Cinderella tried. She offered kindness. She shared laughter. She hoped they would be a family. But then, the final light faded. Her father was gone, and with him, her name, her voice, her place in the world. The attic became her room. Ashes became her perfume. Her clothes were rags. Her days filled with chores. They didn't even call her by her name, just Cinderella, because of the soot on her face. But deep within her, a spark remained. The memory of love, the belief that kindness was still worth holding on to, even when the world seemed to forget her. She didn't forget who she was. By now, the house had changed, not in structure, but in spirit. What was once a home became a place of orders and silence. Each step Cinderella took echoed between cold walls. Each word she spoke was met with a sneer or ignored altogether. The chores began before sunrise. Polish the floors, scrub the curtains, wash the dishes again. No thank yous, no smiles, just more demands. And she did them, not with joy, but with dignity, because somewhere inside she still believed in good. She whispered to the mice and sang lullabies to the birds. She braided the manes of horses that no one cared for. She found softness where none was offered. The others laughed at her for talking to animals, called her strange, said she belonged in the ashes. They named her after them, Cinderella. But to her, that name wasn't shameful. It became her armor because she knew sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest light. At night, she would lie in the attic, looking through the cracks in the ceiling. The stars were small from that angle, but they still twinkled. She imagined what it might be like to wear a dress again, to dance, to laugh freely, to feel her father's hand on her shoulder just one more time. No matter how cold her days became, she carried warmth in her heart. Even in the darkest corner of the house, she still found a way to glow. One morning, the air in the house felt different. The usual silence was broken by excited footsteps and a royal announcement. A grand ball at the palace. An invitation sent to every maiden in the kingdom. Even, yes, even those without a title. For the first time in what felt like forever, Cinderella's heart stirred. She imagined walking through the palace gates, feeling beautiful, being seen. She rushed to her sewing basket, gathered the fabric her mother once wore, old but precious, She worked through the night, stitching not just thread but hope into every scene. The dress was simple but radiant. It held her memories and her dreams. But when she stepped into the room, wearing it with quiet pride, they laughed. You really think you can go? That rag? It's pathetic. And then they ripped it, thread by thread, lace torn, beads flying like tears onto the floor. She didn't fight, she didn't scream. She just stood there, frozen, watching the last piece of her mother's memory fall apart in front of her. The world felt quiet again, but not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind. She ran to the garden, fell to her knees, and wept. All she wanted was to feel like someone again, just for one night, to believe that maybe she still mattered. And just when the tears ran out, when the night seemed its darkest, a light appeared. She wasn't alone anymore. She looked up and saw a light, not the cold light of chandeliers or candles, but something softer, something warm, alive. There stood a woman, draped in silver and moonlight. Her eyes sparkled with kindness, her smile was calm, like she had been waiting all along. I am your fairy godmother, she said. Cinderella blinked. Surely this was another dream, another wish she wasn't allowed to believe in. But the woman lifted her wand, and the world began to shift. A pumpkin shimmered and swelled, growing wheels and velvet seats. Mice transformed into horses with manes of silk. Her torn dress spun like starlight until she stood not as a servant but as a vision. She touched her gown in disbelief. The shoes sparkled like frost. She didn't recognize herself, but for the first time in years she felt seen. Go, said the fairy godmother, but be home by midnight. And so she did. She stepped into the palace with eyes wide open, head held high. The grand hall fell silent. All eyes turned to her. But she didn't see them. She only saw one, the prince. He took her hand. They danced. No names, no status, just two souls who found each other in a world that never made space for dreamers. And for a moment, she forgot the time, forgot the cinders, forgot the pain. But then the clock began to chime. Midnight, the magic unraveled. Glass horses turned back to mice. The gown faded. The spell was breaking. She ran, heart racing, feet bare, leaving behind only one thing, a glass slipper. Morning came, and the entire kingdom was searching. The prince had one clue, a single glass slipper, delicate, unique, and left behind by the girl he couldn't forget. He sent messengers across every village, tried it on every foot, but no one fit. No one, until they reached the old house at the edge of the road. The stepmother tried to hide her, locked her in the attic, insisted her daughters try instead. But fate has a way of finding truth. A soft voice called out, May I try? The room froze, and then she appeared, still in rags, still soft spoken, but she stood tall, calm, certain. She placed her foot into the glass slipper. It fit perfectly. Of course it did, because she wasn't just the girl from the ashes. She was the one who stayed kind when the world was cruel. the one who held on to hope when no one gave her reason to. The prince took her hand, not because she was beautiful, but because she was brave, because she saw the world not for what it was, but for what it could be. They married, yes, but that was only part of her story. You see, this was never about magic, not really. It was about light, the kind that survives fire, the kind that never fades. This was the story of a girl who rose from ashes and taught the world what true grace looks like. This was Cinderella.